One of the most frequent sales challenges I hear from leaders is that what we sell is truly transformational, but our buyers either don't understand it or they just say they don't care about transformation. Have you ever tried to sell something that you believe was a real game changer? Maybe your company labeled it a paradigm shift or a disruptive solution, or perhaps you just directly told buyers that you were selling transformation, and yet your market was screaming back at you things like, "You're the Ferrari and we need a Chevy," or "We're just trying to keep the lights on." Well, I want you to be confident in two things. One, you were right. What you sell is transformational. It can enable a real paradigm shift for your customers and disrupt the way they do business in a positive way. And two, they were right. They often don't need a majority of the innovative and really cool capabilities that companies have built. They do need to focus on solving real problems that are critical to avoid more business problems. So in the second video in a series on my 5 elite sales habits to building and winning with buyer champions, I'm going to share with you how elite sellers are able to satisfy both realities. I'm going to give you a simple approach for how to sell transformation.
Normal is overrated.
My entire career was selling startups, so I can't tell you how many times I was told things like, "We're just not mature enough for you right now. But as soon as we are, looks amazing and we'll call you." But perhaps the worst feeling that I'm curious if you've experienced is that just after you've positioned this well-crafted message of what you sell and how it's so different, 30 minutes into the meeting, the buyer says, "So I guess where we're really struggling is understanding exactly what it is that you do." Candidly, it was actually some buyers who took the time to give me feedback and teach me how to sell innovation. And I'm going to share that with you because when I was a seller, I was told that I had to learn how to sell the flying car. And honestly, I think that was a mistake because I ended up taking the wrong approach at first. In fact, when you think of selling transformation, instead of thinking about it as selling a spaceship, I want you to think of selling transformation as selling a mirror. Just what do we know about a mirror? Well, one, a mirror provides us a reflection of ourselves. So however our companies might brand or market what our transformative solution is, elite sellers try to communicate it to a buyer only in a way that the buyer can see themselves in it, selling a mirror. And the second thing we know about a mirror is that it works only by the power of light. Have you ever tried to see yourself in a mirror in the dark? Didn't work. No light, no reflection. A light is essentially what enables us to see things. If we shine a blue light in the mirror, our reflection turns blue. An orange light, we look like we're on fire. And so if we think about the words that we use in positioning our solution, the reflection that our buyer sees of themselves will be dependent on the specific light that our words provide. And this leads us to the second elite sales habit, leading vision. It's completely normal for a salesperson who's excited and proud of the innovation they're selling to want to tell a buyer all about what it can do and how they think it's different and better than the alternatives. It's also normal that in our discovery meetings, we want to ask a lot of intellectual questions, learn critical information, and qualify the opportunity. To be clear, any great seller is prepared to do all of those things. But as I talked about in the first video in this series, if a buyer can't get connected, emotionally connected to what we sell, we could spend all the time in the world leading thoughtful questioning and pitching our message, but unless we discount heavily, the opportunity will never really go anywhere. So I want you to know about the two roles that this elite habit of leading vision will play. First, a properly led vision will be that initial magnet that pulls a buyer's attraction and interest toward us. Because of how we're guiding the conversation, they'll see a vision that they can relate to. They'll see how we're relevant to that vision, and then they'll start emotionally seeing themselves in this vision that involves what we sell. This is when they start becoming connected to our unique value proposition, and that connection begins their journey toward choosing to be our committed champion. And the second role that this vision we lead will play is that it'll serve as a powerful, constant energy source that just continues to fuel and refuel our champion's motivation to act. And why? Why would a vision of the future drive a bias for action now? Well, two reasons. One, a vision is personal. It's about a buyer seeing themselves, or at least what they want for the business. Two, a vision that's positive and relevant to a buyer plays to what's called our Thrive brain. You might have heard me teach on this, but a human mind makes decisions in a subconscious, automatic mental path that both science and I call survive, thrive, think, the buyer decision path. And the survive and thrive part of the brain, well, that's the first and predominant part of our mind that reacts and makes decisions, and it's 100% emotional. In fact, where most minds want to be and stay as much as possible is this thrive state. And specific to leading a buyer's vision, what the thrive brain emotionally wants so badly is positive outcomes. It just loves success and wants to see the future better than today. And so when we sellers fail to sell to the thrive brain, when we fail to learn and clearly position the relevant outcomes that our solution can deliver, well then we're actually selling against the natural current of a buyer's mental energy. It's like we're swimming upstream trying to fight the current of a river that's moving pretty efficiently that way. When conversely, elite sellers do this. And this is my simple guide for selling transformation. It comes down to 3 critical habits for leading buyer vision. And if you were to listen to any vision leading conversation with an elite seller, it would most often include the foundations of these 3 sales habits. 1, attaching to problems. When we routinely and overtly attach to the relevant and relatable problems that our solution solves for, 1, we're disarming a buyer's protective, risk-averse, and sometimes fearful survival brain. We're just getting them to know that we're not a threat. And also by purposely attaching ourselves to problems, we're ensuring that a buyer is crystal clear on why we're even in the conversation in the first place. If you've ever been punched in the face with a strong objection or sternly dismissed, while it may have felt like the buyer didn't intellectually agree with you or believe you or like you, the majority of the time while we were just innocently trying to position something that could really help the business, we were actually ignorantly minimizing the fact that even if a buyer does want something better and more innovative, until we disarm their emotional protective mind and attach to their relevant problems, which will need to be pretty quick into the conversation, they won't know what our purpose is. And when a buyer subconsciously questions our purpose, we just don't get the open and curious mind share we'll need to sell transformation to them. No matter how opportunistic and impactful what we sell could be, we're never going to get the buyer's mental energy to really invest in learning about it until we earn the right. And that's not by forcing them to immediately start thinking about every important fact and detail. We earn the right for more of their mental horsepower by answering this one simple question. Why should they care about what we do? And just so you're clear, transformation seller, no transformational solution change, no technology adoption, no innovation purchase has ever been made without first needing to solve a problem. Transformation of what? Transformation of the things that aren't working to things that are. Transformation of things that are slow to things that are fast. Transformation of prerequisites that are currently incapable so that they can now do the foundational things that will enable them to do the truly special things. And please listen to this. If there's one thing that every seller needs to know intimately before they even start trying to sell a transformational solution, is the specific problems, not high-level value drivers, but the specific business and technical problems that your solution solves for. And we need to know that menu of problems relatable to the different buyer personas we sell to. If we want an engineering leader to become our champion, we need to know what problems we solve for relatable to an engineer. If we also want the security leader to become our champion, we need to definitively know the problems that could relate to them. Now, this is also true for the second critical habit of leading buyer vision, selling outcomes. Yes, we need to know and eventually position our differentiating capabilities, but buyers don't care how we're different. They only care how we're different for them. There's a difference between capabilities and outcomes, and no matter what we sellers convince ourselves of, or even how it appears the buyer is presenting what they care about, I can just tell you that when buyers are meeting with innovative vendors, they are shopping outcomes, not capabilities. So assuming that we know what top outcomes we're capable of delivering for our target personas before we start selling, we need to be seeking out the relevant outcomes to position on 2 levels. First, the desired outcomes that are already in the buyer's mind. Okay, one of the secrets to selling innovation is to always first meet the buyer where they are. Respect it, don't dismiss it. Connect to it, even if it's not sexy or what you want to be selling, so that 2, once we've met the buyer where they are, once again, we've earned the right to now position the incremental, relevant outcomes that our solution could uniquely deliver.
Quick pause. Now, if you're getting value, please hit subscribe, tap like, and drop a comment so more people can find this and I can help more people. Now let's get back to it.
All right, here's the thing about leading a vision. Leading a vision for a buyer doesn't mean that they just understand it. Elite vision leaders know that there's a difference between understanding and connection. And we people, unless we're just totally obsessed with gadgets and technical things, we don't really get emotionally connected to what we understand something can do. We get connected to the outcomes that it can offer us. And in business, we certainly only approve justifications based on their expected outcomes, not capabilities. So it's actually our Thrive brain at work, the part of our primary emotional brain where we humans just naturally want to be most of the time. We don't want to focus on problems, and our lazy, energy-conserving intellectual brains just want to take shortcuts and make things easy. So this basic human psychology is important for you to know if you want to sell transformation. You see, the blessing and the curse of transformational solutions is that something about them is unique and different. When something is unique and different, it can really lead to a positive paradigm shift for our customers. But from a human buyer's perspective, something that's unique and different can also bring a lot of unwanted change, new risks, and unintended negative consequences. So elite sellers aren't afraid of that at all. What they know is that if a champion can get personally connected to the vision of believable desired outcomes that we can deliver, well then now, game on. Now back to that human psychology lesson. You see, those human buyers we're selling transformation to, where they're gonna eventually need to intellectually understand, at least conceptually, just how our solution would be able to deliver those outcomes. It's actually called attribution theory. We humans have this natural instinct to want to understand the cause and effect of things. And in a purchase decision, especially one that has higher aspirations and even higher levels of investment, attribution theory tells us that we'll need to be able to attribute our success if we're going to make any commitment to something. So the third habit of leading buyer vision is connecting differentiation to outcomes. If the number one reason that sales opportunities get lost to competition or fail to get funded is that we sellers don't have a champion, the number 2 reason, even assuming we have a champion, is that our champions and the buying consensus just aren't clear on exactly what about our solution will enable those outcomes that they'll base this decision on. Have you ever done a great job of building a champion and a strong business justification and then still lose to a competitor or just that pesky nemesis status quo? Too often, we sellers think it was about the justification. The ROI just wasn't compelling enough, or our value needed to be quantified better. While that may be true sometimes, if a champion is truly on board with sponsoring a new, innovative solution in order to deliver the desired outcomes that they're passionate about, but then they can't confidently represent and communicate the specific, differentiating big ideas that will enable those outcomes, then what the seller might have just done is drummed up a lot of interest and activity around the possibility of our transformation, but the buyers won't take action on reaching for that vision. Their mind just slams the brakes because if they can't clearly attribute just what about our solution will enable that desired vision, if they can't confidently answer this natural question of how exactly will this solution drive the transformation that we need, then our deal faces substantial risk to move forward. So I have 3 questions for you. If you're looking to master consistently leading buyer vision toward the transformation that you know you can deliver, 1, how well do you really know the detailed business and technical problems that your solution solves for? And how intentional are you willing to be in disarming your buyers by attaching to those problems early on in your conversations? 2, if you're trying to sell transformation, are you selling capabilities or outcomes? How well do you even know those unique outcomes relevant to your target personas? And last, now that you know that a champion needs to be empowered with knowing the specific differentiating big ideas that will enable the transformational outcomes they desire, how confidently could you directly connect your differentiation to the relevant outcomes that your buyers would care most about? Selling transformation is not really about the transformational message and value justification that we could pitch. It's about leading a buyer's vision toward the relevant transformational outcomes that we can uniquely deliver for them. If there's other enterprise sales topics you want to hear about, share in the comments below, and I'd like you to answer this simple question. If you've been successful at selling transformation, what's worked for you? Friends, if I'm helping you in any way, be sure to bump that like, subscribe, and then click on the screen right now to watch another video helping you to master the human sell and elite level sales strategy. Thanks for watching.